Welcome to the Alcohol Addiction Podcast. My name is Lee Davey. I am not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I am someone who doesn't drink alcohol, and I spend every waking moment, including this one, helping other people do exactly the same. Today, I'm going to talk about the maze in this continuing build-up towards the exclusive webinar on resistance that I'm going to be showing starting 1 a.m. British Summer Time on Friday, June 22nd, and repeating itself every 4 hours after that, until sometime on Monday morning. Then in July, we'll move on to a different campaign and we'll pull out another little golden nugget from the Truth About Alcohol life-changing experience. And we'll share that with you and see how you get on with that. But today we're going to talk about the maze, okay? Now, in order to do that and to start off in our maze, I'm going to go all the way back to the first moment when I created a forum or started having the idea of creating a movement. Back then, it wasn't called Strive, and people were not known as strivers. Back then, it was simply the Needy Helper Forum, if I remember rightly. And it began, as you would imagine, with just me. So I was the only member, and I would go on there every day and go, hi, my name is Lee. I didn't drink today, and I argued with my wife. Boom. Some things haven't changed 18 months on. And then one day, something brilliant happened. Angus arrived from Herefordshire in the UK. And then Angus would say, hey, hi Lee, I haven't had a drink today either. I didn't argue with my wife because I haven't got one. She left me and I'm a little bit peeved about that. Do you want to talk about it? And then me and Angus would get into a conversation. And then as we were getting into a conversation, along came Arthur from Northern Ireland. Then something really cool happened. Eileen joined from Australia. And I was like, what? People in Australia are listening to my podcast and coming on to Strive? And then finally, just like the Beatles, I cracked America when Michelle turned up from California, okay? And then finally, there was Kim. So there was Angus, me, Arthur, Eileen, Michelle, and Kim. 6 kind of founding members of what was then the Needy Helper community that eventually became the Strive Community Forum. So what happened to them? Well, Angus became someone who doesn't drink alcohol, but then he just quickly disappeared, vanished, thought that the Strive Community Forum had given him everything he wanted and didn't want any part of that anymore, and off he went. And good luck to Angus wherever you are in the world. I love you, man, and you played a real integral role in what happened here. King Arthur stayed for 18 months, battling his demons around whether he should moderate or whether he should continue to drink alcohol. Eventually, he decided at the ripe old age of 75 that having a few drinks every now and then wasn't going to do him any harm, and he decided to leave and carry on drinking. Kim, unfortunately, Kim Sandhu, passed away from alcohol-related issues, just to demonstrate the kind of power of this evil entity that we're combating. And if you look on the Alcohol Addiction Podcast list, you'll find interviews with Angus and you'll find interviews with Kim. A pretty somber one, that one with Kim, because it's actually the last recording of his voice that you'll ever find alive, and we miss Kim. He was actually the first person to sign up to the new Strive Community Forum. But moving from a sad story to a happy story, a couple of weeks ago, Eileen celebrated 2 years of being someone who doesn't drink alcohol. And at around the same time that Eileen was celebrating, Michelle was banging out her balloons for the first anniversary. That didn't sound very well, did it? Banging out her balloons. Michelle, you know what I mean if you're listening to this, okay? So what are the key ingredients here? What's the difference between an Eileen and a Michelle and an Angus and an Arthur, for example? Well, first of all, I would say that, let's just focus on Eileen and Michelle, right? I would say that Eileen and Michelle knew what they wanted right from the outset. They wanted to be people who didn't drink alcohol. And there was a real steely determination behind that. They came full of the joys of spring that this is what they wanted to do. And most people kind of get this, right? But then came the kind of the toughest part when, with working with myself and having conversations with me, they realized that in order to do this, in order to crack the code, they had to find their true essence. Who were they really? Where is this essence within them? Who are they, or who were they before they started putting all this layers and layers and layers of fakeness on top of them to hide their true self from the world. So they had to dispense with their identity. They had to crack away at all these layers of bullshit. And in order to do this, if you're going to crack away at these layers of bullshit, then you need to have hope. You need to have hope that this guy, Lee Davey, who has created this thing and he's telling you that you need to find your true essence. You don't have to become somebody. You just have to find out who you were and embrace who you were, okay? That you need to have hope and trust in this fella that life is really going to be as exciting and interesting as he says it is, right? We all have to put our truth and faith and hope into somebody, particularly when it comes to this journey of trying to be someone who doesn't drink alcohol. Fortunately, Michelle and Eileen put their trust and faith in me, and it worked out for them. And at this point, when they do decide they're going to put their faith in me, this is where they meet resistance for the first time. Because suddenly, resistance pops up and says, whoa, 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 whoa. This Lee Davey, why are you going to trust this guy for? Why do you think life's going to be any better when you're not drinking? When life has been pretty good up to now when you have been drinking. So let's not trust this dude. Like, let's not trust him. This guy is a nothing. This guy is a nobody. Let's just ignore him. Just turn that off a minute so it doesn't beep again. The first thing then, in order to defeat resistance in this one particular battle, is that both Michelle and Eileen had to realize and accept wholeheartedly that they fucking loved alcohol. They loved it. And they needed every single drop that ever entered their stomach. They needed it. They loved it. And it sounds so simple, doesn't it? Me to say to you, yeah, you come on to Strive or you come to the Truth About Alcohol, you listen to the Alcohol podcast, you email me and you say, Lee, I really want to give up drinking alcohol. I don't want it anymore. I hate it. I don't want it. It's disgusting. It's horrible. I want to get rid of it. But the truth is, they're all lies. You love alcohol. You fucking love it. That's why you've been drinking it for so long. That's why you've needed it to cure every single ailment. That's why you think it has so much value. And when I turn around and tell you it has no value, you argue with me over it because you need that truth. Because without it, why would you drink it in the first place? You loved it. It provided you with value, okay? A lot of people miss this. You cannot just then turn around and go, oh yeah, I did love it, all right? There needs to be a process, and that process is a coaching process, which is very difficult for me to explain over the mic, right? You have to get into Strive. You have to get in a conversation and have those conversations with trained, skilled people. And that's what Michelle and Eileen did. Because if you fear your essence, okay, if you fear your essence, then you're going to cling on to your presence. And your presence is this fakeness. This faux pas. And part of this fakeness and part of this faux pas is the fact that you drink alcohol, okay? Which means you have to cling onto the bottle. You're clinging onto this identity that says you are a drinker. But faith and hope in your essence means that you can eventually go on this kind of like joyous kind of experience of finding it and growing and opening up and revisiting back who you were way before you became a teenager. So in a sense, you're in a maze, right? You're in a maze and you're really trying to find the way out. But everywhere you go, resistance stands in the way of every single path. You're trying to find your essence in this maze, the door, if you like, and standing in the way every time you turn is resistance. You can't climb over it. You can't get around it. You can't sneak under it. You can't squeeze past it. At some point, you have to face it. And this is what Michelle and Eileen did. They were able to face the resistance with my help and the help of other people who came to Strive Community Forum. And they were able to face it. They were able to beat it. And that is why Eileen is celebrating 2 years of being someone who doesn't drink alcohol. And Michelle is celebrating a year. And both of those amazing women, not only are they people who no longer drink alcohol anymore, it's not just the act of not drinking alcohol. They have completely changed their lives. They are completely different people. Michelle, for example, was really suffering with an addiction to antidepressants. She couldn't stop taking these things. Like she'd been taking them for years and years and years and felt that her entire life revolved around. She needed them for every stressful situation. She stopped drinking, boom, she no longer needed the antidepressants. Yes, she still suffers from anxiety. Yes, she still suffers from the odd bout of kind of mood swings. But hey, she is more than capable now of dealing with it because she's no longer someone who doesn't drink alcohol. And she did all that by facing the resistance. She was able to find the courage to battle resistance on every level. Okay, resistance would have tried to stop her from Googling, I need help. Resistance would have stopped her from joining the Strive Community Forum. Resistance would have tried to stop her from listening to the podcast. Resistance would have stopped her from writing her first post on Strive. Resistance would have stopped her from joining the life-changing experience. Resistance would have tried to stop her from listening to me. Resistance would have told her to drink. Resistance would have told her to take antidepressants. Resistance would have told her that she was useless, worthless, that she was only a woman, that she didn't have a place in this world, that she was an unsuccessful businesswoman, that she was a terrible sailor, that she couldn't have any friends, and that she would fall out of love with everybody if she stopped drinking alcohol. Every step of the way, resistance would have told her that. But Michelle just said, look, up to this point, alcohol, I have really loved you. I've enjoyed our trip, but right now it's time to say bye-bye. I don't need you in my life anymore. I am taking control. And she worked with me. She found her true essence, and she was able to beat resistance on every single level. And today, she still goes into those battles with resistance, but she is a much more comfortable, confident, and courageous woman, meaning that she can beat resistance head on each and every time. So join me on Friday, 1 a.m. British summertime, and every 4 hours thereafter until the weekend is over, where I will be delivering a special exclusive webinar on resistance. What is it? What can we do about it? How can we combat it? I'll be telling you a really interesting story about how I overcame resistance in a particular area of my life. And I will be trying to tell you how you should snap up the last 10 spots that we have on the life-changing experience this June, because I really do believe, like Eileen and Michelle are living examples that in taking the life-changing experience, you really can become someone who doesn't drink alcohol, and you really can become somebody who can wake up every morning and beat resistance before you go to bed again at night. Okay, so this is me signing off until tomorrow with another one. Take care, and yeah, just don't drink today. Just today, don't drink. Take care. See you soon.